Hello Minecraft, this is MusicDude14Z, and I'm here with the third Redstone tutorial of my series. So, um, it seems like they're coming out a little bit faster. Hopefully we keep at that tempo. Through school, they're going to start coming out a lot slower, probably only on the weekends, and hopefully 2 or 3 per weekend. So they still come out about as frequently, like 2 or 3 a week, but just all at once instead of over a time. Anyway, so here we've got our first gate tutorial. You guys, hold on, let me make it daytime. Why is it never daytime when I want to teach a lesson? Maybe it is. My render distance is too short. I can't see anything. That's the wrong button. No, get bigger. Alright. There we go. I can see the sun. Woo! Alright, so we're learning our first gate. It's a very simple gate. You guys will probably understand it like this. I snapped if you didn't see. And it's really simple. You guys will instantly get what it's for, but it's used in the creation of almost every other gate, except some variations of the 5th lessons gate, which will be the second gate you guys learn. So yeah, it's a really important skill to learn, and it also explains the reason for repeaters. So anyway, let's get into this. So when you place a lever, it automatically starts in the off position. We talked about that. And when you flick it, it goes on. Opens the door over there, because it's what it's hooked up to. Flick it off, door closes. But what if, for design purposes, in some place, we wanted it so that when the lever was left, the door was closed, and right, the door was open? We want to inverse the signal. Awkward. There's a way to do that, and that's called the NOT gate. Notice how, when this side is off, the input, the output is on. And when I flick the lever, and the input becomes on, the output becomes off. So we'll talk about how this works right now. Alright, so when you power the block that a torch is on, not next to, if it were here, nothing happens, but the torch is on, if you power it, the signal goes off, and if you don't power it, the torch stays the way it is. This works no matter where you place the torch on the block. 1, you can't place torches on the bottom of a block, so you only have 4 faces available to you. And you would say, why not 5? 6 sides in a cube, right? Well, their power has to go in one side, and no matter how you power a block, unless you're powering it from below, in which case you get 5, and we'll show that over there. But if you're powering it from the side, or from above, you only have 4 faces to put the power on. So watch, when I power it, all of the torches go off, and when I unpower it, they all go back on. So we can see here, if you run redstone directly into a block, remember how we discussed in the last lesson, that the redstone has to go directly into the block, not curve away. Oh, right, doesn't update sometimes. There we go. Again, block updates are simple, but remember, the redstone's not going to be changing in a circuit you build, so it doesn't matter how block updates work as long as you build the circuit correctly. Another thing you can see is if we had this kind of NOT gate, where we had the signal coming on the side, and we really needed this to be powered, but we didn't want the block to be over here, and we didn't want it to do this, because of space confinements and everything. We didn't want this, where it runs into the side of the thing. You can force the redstone on top of the block, by placing the redstone on top of the block now. That sounded weird, but yeah. So you force the redstone to do the torch by going on top of the block. If you put redstone on top of a block, any redstone, it powers the block below. So that's why the torch goes off. That's how redstone works. It powers the block below it. That's a little bit confusing, but that's pretty much how it works. Alright, so the other way you could make a NOT gate, so these are kind of 2 examples, is to put a torch underneath the block, because remember how we showed how a torch powers the blocks next to it and the block below it. So it powers this block, the torch goes off. So the standard form for a NOT gate, the way you'll see in almost every book, is input, block, torch. Sometimes you'll see with redstone on top, because it's like a security, although it's a waste of redstone in some cases, so you generally end up avoiding it. So now we're going to see the most common and practical use of a NOT gate, besides inverting a signal. What is wrong with that word? What is wrong with me, guys? Remember pisty? Yeah, I just can't talk. Alright, so besides inverting a signal, the other thing it does is it extends redstone, and we'll show that in a sec. So we're going to call the power source 0 and number each block. So you can see the number does go in order. You see it goes perfectly all the way up to 15. And to tell how far the redstone power is, since the color gets dim and this is pretty close to that, look at the particles. That's the best way. So my particles are all the way up whenever I do redstone work, and they usually are anyway because my computer could take it, but whatever. So look, the 16th block, the one labeled no power, doesn't get power. Power just doesn't travel that far. So the door stays closed. Too bad, right? Let me turn that off. So how do we extend power? A lot of people will tell you to do repeaters, which we'll talk more about later. But before repeaters were introduced, because you guys know, if you don't know, redstone was introduced before repeaters. So there had to be a way to extend power before repeaters. So we do what's called a double NOT gate. So if we ignore this part, right now, no power goes in. Nope, nothing's powering this block. So this torch is on, which powers this redstone, which powers this block, which turns off this torch, so the signal is off. Where if I go over here and flick the switch, our input is on, which means this block is powered, which means this torch is off, which means this redstone doesn't get powered, which means this block doesn't get powered, which means the torch turns on, and then we have power to the door. So that's called a double NOT gate, or a repeater. Now, you guys might tell me, that doesn't actually look like a repeater. And you're right, this is what a repeater is generally thought to be. Because since this is a space-consuming block, Minecraft added a repeater block. And you might ask, well, why not use that? It conserves stone. So if you have the space, why not use a double NOT gate? See, they both work the same. Not really. Let's put one switch that controls both. See, it does control both. And kind of ignore these two right now. As long as they're off, it doesn't matter. The problem we get is look at the doors really carefully. Do you notice how the door on the left opens a fraction of a second later? This is because every time you have a NOT gate, there is a delay of 0.1 seconds. So here's the first NOT gate, as we discussed. It's a double NOT gate. And here's the second one. So, you know, double NOT gate, like I just said. So 1 and 2. 0.1 plus 0.1 is 0.2. A repeater has 4 positions. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you click again, this is right-clicking, by the way, it goes back to the first position. So as you can, repeaters are adjustable, and when they're placed, they start in the first position. Each position represents an additional 0.1 seconds. So this is a 0.1 second delay, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4. We'll talk more about how to use these delays in the next video, but let me just show you how this works. So right now, the door on the right opens faster, so this is actually better than that. If we set it to setting 2, so that it's a 0.2 second delay, just like the double NOT gate, they open at exactly the same time, which is still a delay from the lever, but at least they're at the same time. Setting it to 0.3 will mean it will open 0.1 seconds after the door, so now the door on the right takes longer. And setting it to 0.4, the fourth setting, or tick, as some people like to say, the door opens 0.2 seconds later. We'll talk more about this in the next video, but that's why repeaters are more valuable. They're adjustable, much more easily than these, and they're very conservative on space, taking up only 1 block instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. 3 lengthwise, but it does take up some height. Okay, so now, remember how in the last video I mentioned there's another way of moving power upwards in a 1x1 space? Well, we have it right here. These torches are for purposes I'll show you in a sec. Oops. I should fix that. Sorry guys, I always seem to break my tutorials whenever I do these things. Alright, so let's pick up those torches, even though I'm in creative and I have as many as I want. So you'll notice when I flick this switch, the red's now up here, we have on, and when I flick the switch again, I have off. And this is by using a system of NOT gates. When this is off, it doesn't power this block, leaving this one on, which powers this block, making this one off, and etc., turning that on, off, which is our original input. And when I flick it, it switches all of them, so it's on. So why isn't this used? See, it's very fast. Well, for the next exercise, it's a little harder to see from any real angle, because as you can see, the torches are kind of cut off. So if we place a torch like this, since I said you can place the torch at any angle of the block, it looks just the same as the torch on the block, except it doesn't do anything, just so we can see better. And now we're going to get in this hole, because holes are fun. And then we can see how the redstone actually looks, and we'll kind of float so we can see it really well. Alright, so when I flick the switch, notice, you can see the redstone traveling upwards. And it seems like there's a flow to it. Because as we said before, for each NOT gate, there is a 0.1 second delay. And how many NOT gates do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a 0.6 second delay. And look, it's almost nighttime. Sorry, guys. So, by flicking this lever, by moving power up this way, it actually takes 0.6 seconds to get to the top. Where the other ways were instant. They took no time at all. So this isn't used as much because it takes time. There's a delay, and sometimes you need things to be more instant than that. The other reason this isn't used as much is because notice how this has 6. If it were only 5, the signal at the top would be on, inversed, which would be the inverse. And what if it wasn't an even number of blocks? So like the level you wanted to get to was where this wood plank is. It's kind of hard to do that, isn't it? Because how would you get the power off? You'd have to kind of put the torch on the side, and then, yeah, this one's just an awkward method to use, so most people avoid it. But sometimes it's just perfect. So you guys, just to see again, there is a delay on this. Alright, so now we're going to talk about one more thing that's a little funky with NOT gates. If you take a redstone torch, power the block above, then put a block to the left, and put redstone on top, the redstone is powered. I have no idea why. It doesn't really follow any rules. It gets powered. Because if you put redstone down, the block next to it, and the redstone here, it doesn't get powered. And if you broke this block, well, you can't do it without that block. But yeah, so I don't really understand why this happens, but that redstone gets powered. And because of this, if you put the torch on the side and don't give power to this redstone, the torch burns out. And it blinks a bunch of times. And sometimes the torch will come back on for a couple seconds. But this isn't really helpful. So if you were trying to make a NOT gate where you had power coming in so that this torch would be the inverse of this signal, which looks like it might work, but then you accidentally put a block here from a different part of your circuit, it won't work. Or for design purposes, it doesn't work. And this is because if you look at what's happening, this torch powers this block, which powers this redstone as we saw over there, which powers this block, which turns the torch off. And it continues in this cycle, which would then turn the redstone off, which lets the because this is not powered anymore, and the torch comes back on, powering the redstone, and it does this cycle, and the computer processes it as fast as it can, and then Minecraft tells the torch to short out, because you're not supposed to do that. So yeah. So the way I was stopping this from happening the whole time was leaving power, because as long as this is turned on, this will stay off, and then we won't do it. But the second you do off, instead of inversing the symbol, it sorts out, and you hear the torch burn out. Torch burn out. I really can't talk, can I? These tutorials, they're crazy. Alright guys, so that's it for a NOT gate lesson. In the next lesson, we'll learn a lot more about repeaters. So, thanks guys, and this is MusicDude14Z with his skin finally working. I don't know what happened to it. I think that's a 1.3.2 glitch. Yay, glitches. Alright guys, so this is MusicDude14Z, and I am signing out. Thanks guys.